Eastern. Hour number 3 of the Vegas Take, smack dab in the middle of it. 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDAWN, Talk of Las Vegas. I'm Chris Wynn in for Brian Shapiro. He's back tomorrow. Never fear, Vegas Take fans out there. JD Sharp also live in studio. Catch us streaming on our YouTube channel at the Vegas Take Radio. And great interview there. Had a lot of fun talking with Gavin Maloof as well as Lisa Song-Sutton here on your Wednesday. But obviously Gavin, former professional sports owner of a team. And so let's keep the sports angle going a little bit here.
I think he's current. I think he has.
He's current. He's
definitely got a small piece in the.
My mistake.
And I'll be shocked if when the NBA comes, in which it is coming,
the Maloof family's not involved in some way.
They're going to definitely be involved, even as a consultant with a small percentage of equity. I'm talking 5 to 10%, if not the major investor. But I'll be shocked if the Maloof family is definitely not actively involved in that process.
And I talked a little bit about commissioners' viewpoints as far as sports in Las Vegas. Well, a active commissioner right now in a little bit of heat, JD, as Rob Manfred from Major League Baseball wrapped up his second spring training press conference in less than a week's time. He usually does one in Florida, obviously for the Grapefruit League and for the Cactus League in Arizona. So this isn't anything that's strange. There was, however, an agenda to this press conference rather than just fulfilling a requirement. During a presser over the weekend, JD, Manfred referred to the World Series trophy as a piece of metal and that it would be futile to take back the Astros championship over that piece of metal. Obviously, this is something that sparked a lot of anger and people that were pissed off, to say the least, in Major League Baseball, particularly high-profile players who weighed in. And when you think about a trophy like this, it's something that they aspire to win, right? It's something that they've dedicated their lives to, whether it's in Major League Baseball, the NBA, NHL, and across the board. They're trying to win a championship. That trophy symbolizes that championship. So when your commissioner comes out and makes a comment like that, where he's basically diminishing the significance of it.
Come on, downplaying the value of the World Series. That's why Major League Baseball exists.
You can't do it, right? If you're Rob Manfred and you're the commissioner of the league.
Have you ever heard anyone in that type of position call a trophy a piece of metal? Are you joking?
But the funny thing is here, and let me play a little bit of the other side, I think there's just a tad of faux outrage here, because the point he was trying to make, I don't necessarily think he was trying to downplay Major League Baseball and winning a championship. I don't think Rob Manfred equates winning a World Series with, the physical trophy. I think he was trying to, I don't know, make go away is not really a way to describe it, but he was trying to point out and minimize the Astros cheating scandal, and wanted to kind of put on the back burner and use the trophy as kind of a point in that, right?
What he's saying is that
this isn't it's just a trophy. It's just a piece of metal.
It's not that big of a deal that they cheated to win the World Series.
Right?
It's not that big of a deal. All they got out of it was this little piece of metal that 31 teams play for every single year, that fans go to 162 6-month-long season of games because all they care about is their team winning that piece of metal. Like, for example, when the Cubs won the World Series and you had that 99-year-old woman, I think she might have been 101 years old, and she had been to every Cubs game, every Cubs home game for 70 years. How much do you think that piece of metal matters to her?
Well, that's the distinction I'm making here. It's not necessarily about the trophy. It's about the memory, right?
Exactly.
It's about the team.
It's about your team winning, being your team in your location, your demographic, or whatever fan you have, winning that championship, being the best team for that particular year, and being recognized for it, and you watching that process take place. That's what it's all about. The fact that Rob Manfred said that to me, I don't want to hear from this guy ever again. I want a new Major League Baseball commissioner tomorrow. To me, he's an absolute embarrassment, and I'm happy that Mike Trout went out and said, "Are you kidding me? Yeah. Do you know how fun that would be for me if I knew what pitches were coming? And if you think there's not an advantage, you're crazy, and there should be punishment. He mentioned the fact that maybe the championship should be taken away. Mike Trout, who is a he's the highest paid player in baseball. He's won 2 MVPs. He's definitely a Hall of Famer. He might end up being the best baseball player ever. But he's not outspoken at all. But who's the face of the league. He goes out and he literally says these disparaging things about Rob Manfred and how bad cheating was and how poor it is for Major League Baseball. And I'm thankful that he did that. I think Rob Manfred has no business at all being the commissioner of Major League Baseball moving forward.
As you would expect, JD, the response has been swift and brutal when it comes to Rob Manfred from the players. Justin Turner from the Los Angeles Dodgers weighed in and said, at this point, the only thing devaluing that trophy is that it says commissioner on it because of Rob Manfred, basically, right?
Yeah, 100%.
John Lester, also on Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred, saying that's somebody that's never played our game. You play for a reason. You play for that piece of metal. I'm very proud of the 3 that I have. That's what John Lester said.
That's a very good point. Rob Manfred has not played the game. He doesn't know what it's like. He doesn't know what it's like to be away from your family for 260 days out of the year just during the season. Not to mention spring training. I mean, the baseball season, by and large, between spring training, if you make it to the playoffs, it's 9 months of your life. That's a big deal. And working every single day in, day out. For example, what if you're a catcher and you're crouching down in that position in the heat for 3 hours a day while your team is playing? You're getting paid well for it, but I mean it's a major commitment, and it matters to these people at some level that you could really only understand if you would experience it. And Rob Manfred, based on those comments, clearly has not.
Here's Dodger infielder Justin Turner in his own words on Rob Manfred.
Calling the World Series trophy a piece of metal. I mean, I don't know if the commissioner's ever won anything in his life. Maybe he hasn't, but the reason every guy is in this room, the reason every guy is, working out all off season and showing up to camp early and putting in all the time and effort is specifically for that trophy, which, by the way, is called the commissioner's trophy. So for him to devalue it the way he did yesterday is just tells me how out of touch he is with the players in this game. And, at this point, the only thing devaluing that trophy is that it says commissioner on it.
Now, the focus isn't necessarily, right, JD, on the Astros cheating scandal as a whole. It's basically on your commissioner giving the perception that he doesn't care about the sport that he's the commissioner of, right? That's really the main part of this story here. I mean, we all understand. We all have heard the facts regarding the Astros cheating in the World Series. But Trevor Bauer makes it interesting here because he does tie in the Houston Astros to this Rob Manfred situation. And he says, look, it's hard to argue with this thread. He's talking about all the Major League Baseball players coming out against Rob Manfred. As surprising as it may seem, a championship isn't just a piece of metal to most of us. It's symbolic of much more than that. The current precedent, now this is where he ties in the Houston Astros, the current precedent seems to encourage cheating to win because there are no consequences. That cannot be our standard. So while this has become a story more about Rob Manfred and this perception that, look, you're a guy who, when you mention the trophy in that manner, you're giving us an indication that you just don't care about baseball. You don't care about teams winning championships. When you can dismiss the symbol of that championship in such a way that it's a piece of metal, that shows us how you feel about the sport of baseball. That is what I think you, JD, and all these players, why they think this guy needs to go. Rob Manfred's got to get out because you should not be not only should you not probably be in the sport of baseball, you certainly shouldn't be the figurehead who is the commissioner of Major League Baseball when you're going to make comments like this, right?
Exactly. You shouldn't be handling all the decisions in America. I mean, this isn't hockey. This is America's pastime. This is the first sport that a lot of our listeners paid attention to when they were growing up, that they were exposed to. The Yankees, the biggest franchise in professional sports history, bar none. Baseball. Red Sox, baseball. Cubs, baseball. Cardinals, baseball. I mean, these are franchises that have storied histories with massive national and international fan bases. And I think that Rob Manfred has absolutely no business being involved, and you're totally right, in any sport at this type of position. Because, again, not only is he totally devaluing, but he's also using it as a scapegoat to say, oh, by the way, this wasn't that big of a deal. That's what this is all about.
That's the point I was making.
He's trying to cover this.
That was his motivation for it, right?
He's trying to cover this up, and he ends up exposes himself as this joke in the process. I'll be very surprised if he makes it through the next month, because these players are angry. LeBron James is angry. Players from other sports. I mean, if you're in baseball, and you can cheat in basketball, you can't cheat like in baseball. But if you're an off-speed pitcher and you're a good hitter, and your job, you get paid $20 million a year to hit. These Astros, it's not like they had bad hitters. You're talking Alex Bregman, Michael Brantley, Jose Altuve, Carlos Correa, Yuli Gurriel. I mean, the list goes on. Yordan Alvarez, the list goes on and on. These guys, George Springer, these guys are all all-stars. And you give an all-star an off-speed pitch, and you know where that pitch is at, you are done. You don't stand a chance. And you've got 55 seconds, maybe a minute in between pitches to decide, what's coming, or because what's coming. That's crazy. You have a major advantage. So I would say that the baseball cheating is more egregious than it would be in football and in basketball. And I really would like to get the perspective of Jose Canseco in comparing it to steroid use, because I think this is so much worse than steroid use. Because you could take steroids, but you still have to be able to swing the bat. You have to be able to hit the ball. You have to have strong hand-eye coordination. But if you know where the pitch is coming, you don't need you just need to have strong hand-eye coordination and some experience hitting a baseball, and you should be fine. And to me, that's unbelievable that the fact that this guy, this Rob Manfred, who calls himself commissioner, would literally downplay that just to say, oh, by the way, it's not that big of a deal. It's just a piece of metal. He has no business in professional sports, period.
Your thoughts and your opinions at 702-257-5396. Do you think that that Rob Manfred is way out of line when it comes to his statements about the World Series trophy? It's actually called the Commissioner's Trophy. So that adds another little caveat to this. A couple more reactions. You had 2019 World Series champion Sean Doolittle weighing in, saying, "It bothered me, man. I hated it. It made him sound really out of touch. That's the holy grail of our sport." And then Pittsburgh's Joe Musgrove takes a little bit different approach, and it kind of leads into something I want to bounce off you, JD. He says they don't just hand those out, talking about the World Series trophy. There's a lot of work that goes into getting one of those, so I can understand why they're upset about it. For me, personally, I think the ring is something that everyone takes with them, and that has a special piece that you can carry with you forever. There's only one trophy that gets made. So this kind of leads me to my point, JD, and it's going to sound a little bit like I'm playing devil's advocate here. But is there a little bit of faux outrage here on the players' part? Because it is a trophy, and as you just pointed out, we just pointed out in our discussion, it's more about the memory, right? It's more about the relationships. It's more about your teammates. It's more about that moment in time where you're the champions of baseball, where, there's certain teams. Now, look, there are certain teams that win multiple championships, right? Certainly the New York Yankees will win back-to-back championships or 4 championships in 5 years. But there's more often than not, there's that team, that one team, 1 year, right? There's my 1984 Detroit Tigers. There's the 2015 Kansas City Royals. There's the teams that have that memory of that season that they'll never forget. The World Series champion Chicago Cubs, after decades of not winning a championship, that memory is going. It's not necessarily on the front burner of every Cub fan's mind from that season. Oh, yeah, I remember when they rose that trophy in the locker room when the players were dousing themselves in beer and champagne, and like that is that they don't talk about the trophy as some type of holy grail. They have the memories of the team. So I guess my point is this is a little bit disingenuous on the players' part to come out and say, "Oh, he's absolutely degrading our game because he's destroying the trophy and what it represents."
He's not just destroying the trophy, he's destroying the fact that the Astros won the World Series. They won everything. They won everything you just discussed because they cheated.
Okay. So he's basically connecting that.
Justin Turner is saying, okay, yeah, is it a hunk of metal? Yeah, is it probably worth $9,000 street value? Fine, whatever.
Right.
But in order to get that hunk of metal, you have to beat every single team in Major League Baseball. Mm-hmm. You have to win the World Series. You have to go through 270 days of training camp and season and playoffs and win. And that is what Rob Manfred is devaluing, is the fact that these Astros cheated. They cheated everybody else, to win that hunk of metal. And Justin Turner is saying that is insane that the commissioner of this sport is calling the trophy a hunk of metal simply to detract or deter the listener and the audience from the fact that the Houston Astros cheated to get it. He's devaluing it to cover it up. And that's what Turner and Trout and everybody is so angry about. And these Astros, the over-under for them on getting hit by a pitch this year is 83. I think it goes way over. These players are pissed off, especially after what Carlos Correa said when he told players to shut the F up because they don't understand what actually happened. Now you've got Astros players, and then Jim Crane's response. Oh, we had a great team either way. We were going to win the World Series no matter what happened. Jim Crane should literally be forced to sell the Houston Astros. They should force a sale of the team based on the 2016 valuation prior to this cheating, and he should be banned from the game for life as well. This is so bad for professional sports, and again, this is America's pastime. This is Major League Baseball.
So, JD, we've had players involved in PED scandals, other scandals where they're off the field as far as either domestic violence, other thing that's going on. JD, what do you think is going to happen this season when the Houston Astros go on the road in Major League Baseball during the 2020 season? What is it going to be like for that team
they're going to get
in opposing stadiums after what has just transpired in the past 2 weeks?
They're going to get booed constantly. Attendance will be down, I believe. And I think pitchers are going to go after him, especially pitchers that they tortured.
Well, Major League Baseball has already implemented and said, look, there's not going to be any tolerance for any repercussions.
Good luck with that.
You know what I'm saying, though.
I got you,
They've already taken that stance.
Good luck with when the entire league is against you. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
I don't care what that stance is, especially after you calling it a hunk of metal. What? And that's Rob Manfred who made that statement, by the way. What do the players care what Rob Manfred has to say if he doesn't value the championship? They don't care about the rules. Seriously, Good luck with that. I think that the Astros are going to get hit a couple times a game, every single game. And I would be disappointed if the Astros even sniff the World Series for another decade. And Jim Crane should be asked to sell that team. But the players all over the country, all fan bases all over the country are furious. And that's not going to go away unless these players get suspended or Jim Crane is forced to sell a team where there's an actual legitimate apology involved, or the Houston Astros are forced to vacate the 2017 World Series. Hey, Reggie Bush had to vacate the Heisman Trophy. Why couldn't they do the same thing? I would argue this was much worse than Reggie Bush taking a couple payments for a house for his mom.
702-257-5396 is the phone number. Your thoughts, Rob Manfred, should he no longer be the commissioner of Major League Baseball, and your thoughts on the Astros cheating scandal? Let's go out to the phone lines. Michael joins us here on the Vegas Take. We appreciate you spending some time. Michael, what's up?
Hey, what's up, Michael?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Going good.
Doing well.
Good. I just wanted to weigh in on this whole hunk of metal thing. I mean, if you think about it, as a fan, my dream was to play Major League Baseball, and that obviously didn't happen because it's so incredibly hard. But that's what you strive for. And as a fan, we only have the trophy. We can't bring home a ring. We don't get a ring.
And that's a very valid point. You're not playing the game.
Exactly. But we spend the money. We take our kids there. We grew up watching it. My grandmothers watched it. Growing up as a Cubs fan from Chicago. I mean, I waited my whole life, and generations waited their whole life to watch them raise that trophy. We didn't believe the Cubs could ever win the World Series until they raised that trophy. That's all we had. That's what we went on.
Yeah. Michael, we appreciate the phone call. Yeah, there's a special connection with the fans and with the team with that trophy. There's no doubt about that. We understand that, and that's something that is going to endure for years, right, JD?
Well, and the fans are the ones that are paying for the tickets. They're paying for the merchandise. They're buying the jerseys. They're paying for the food. They're betting on the games. They're bringing in the TV ratings. Without fans, that's not taking place, and it's a giant slap in the face to the fans as well because, again, Michael's very right. They don't get to play the game. They just get to enjoy the spoils. They get to say, my team won the World Series. I'm from this place. I've been loyal through the good times and the bad, and the bad times are very important. The Cubs were awful for a long time. Then that Bartman situation happened, and that was a national tragedy. And then the Cubs won the World Series 3 years ago, and Chris Bryant, who's a Las Vegas native,
you just call it a national tragedy with the Bartman situation?
Yeah, it was terrible. It was a huge story. It was a terrible deal. It was awful for Major League Baseball. It was awful for the Cubs too.
Well, it was, but national tragedy.
I thought it was. I mean, the sports world was not happy about that for a long time.
702.
I mean, Bartman literally disappeared.
Yeah,
no one's seen him since. Yeah.
702-257-5396 is the phone number. Dave joins us now. He wants to talk about the cheating aspect of the Astros, but with another sport, right, Dave?
Yes.
What's up, Dave?
I think it's, first of all, I agree with you. Manfield should be gone and everything else. But my big concern is America has embraced winning so much that they don't care if there's cheaters to win. I use the New England Patriots as a perfect example. All these sportscasters, everybody says it's the greatest coach, it's the greatest quarterback. Well, they got caught cheating in Cincinnati and then turn around and lose a home game to the Miami Dolphins when they could have had home field advantage through the whole playoffs. That's because they couldn't cheat against them. So America just cares. If you win, we don't care how, why, when. We don't care how you do it as long as you win.
And I think the Patriots are very different. The Patriots have a
Thanks for the call, Dave.
Yeah, good call. Bill Belichick is a defensive genius.
Yeah.
The Patriots have won for a long time, and one thing Belichick does better than anybody else is and Trump does this too, but he toes the line of legal and not legal, and he teeters on that line, and he goes as far as he can within those rules, and he exploits them. But what the Astros did to me is totally much worse than anything the Patriots done, and that includes the deflation of the balls.
And Major League Commissioner Rob Manfred, he had a response to a lot of the vitriol that he's received in the past 24 to 48 hours after these comments were made.
I referred to the World Series trophy in a disrespectful way, and I want to apologize for that. There's no excuse for it. I made a mistake. I was trying to make a point, but I should have made it in a more effective way. And again, I want to apologize for it. I will say this, I've awarded 5 World Series trophies. There is no greater pleasure in this job than awarding that trophy. I understand what it means. And again, it was a mistake to say what I said.
It's Rob Manfred, MLB Commissioner, on his comments regarding the trophy and calling it a piece of metal, JD. Look, he's the guy's behind the 8 ball. There's no question, right? I mean, it's at a tipping point right now where he's going to have to make a decision whether or not to resign or he's going to try to stick it out.
Major League Baseball needs a new commissioner. The Rob Manfred era, in my opinion, is over, and it should be over. And I think that about 99% of the country agrees with me.
Fernando joins us on the phone lines. Fernando, you got a couple of minutes till the back end of the show. What's your thoughts on this?
What's up? Hey, been a while, Fernando. How you been?
I'm doing okay, guys. Doing good. Manfred is now the weakest commissioner ever out of all the commissioners. And, the Astros are playing wiffle ball at a major league level. And for him not to punish any of the players or strip a title or ban them from postseason play, he just didn't do nothing. It's just terrible. It's a terrible look.
It's cowardice.
He has to resign.
Yeah, it's cowardice. And not only did he do nothing, then in order to deflect from the fact that these guys cheated, he said, "Oh, yeah, it's just a hunk of metal." He totally devalued it. And to me, the fact that he even had those intentions is enough that, yeah, you're gone.
A lot of heat on the commissioner to call it quits as far as being the main guy in Major League Baseball. And I think there's a lot of sentiment out there that would agree with that, right, JD?
Absolutely.
No question.
And if there's not, there should be.
Yeah. But the whole thing about punishment, though, there has been, punishment that has been doled out, but people are asking whether or not it was severe enough, right? And whether or not the players who were actually involved should be punished. And look, I think there's a little bit of a complication there, given you've got, players on other teams now, and you've got, with other organizations. I don't know exactly how you would carry that out. There's been proposals of 50-game suspensions, right, for some of the players that have been involved, even though they're on other teams now. I don't know necessarily how that would all take place, but that's something that's been discussed.
Well, let's see. They've lost, I think, 3 or 4 draft picks. They were fined $5 million.
Mm-hmm.
The Astros, first of all, their valuation as a team went up about $2 billion over the last 2 years. So that is approximately, 0.05% of that amount. He's not going to feel that.
Mm-hmm.
The punishment just has not been enough, and it needs to be more aggressive. They need to lose the title in 2017, in my opinion. The players that were actively cheating, Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, whoever, and Jake Marisnick, I think there's a couple more names, they should definitely be gone for at least 1 year. Jim Crane should be forced to sell the team. And if that were to take place, then okay, Rob Manfred could stick around, but clearly he wants nothing to do with that. He's just trying to move. He's trying to move forward and protect his sport in the process. the only way you protect the sport is by recognizing how big of a screw up it was and legitimately punishing the people so that it never happened. Because right now the precedent has been set that you could cheat, and the punishment is not a lot.
Yeah.
$5 million for a World Series. Say you're the Miami Marlins, and your team is worth $300 million, and you win the World Series, and you cheat, you aggressively cheat in all these different ways, and your valuation goes up to $1.5 billion. Yep. What do you care about $5 million? What do you mean? Now you've got your fan base involved. You've got a whole. I mean, and once you win that championship, your fan base is very, very active for at least a decade after that. So why, after this punishment, why wouldn't another team go for it and cheat in the same way they did?
Fun Wednesday here on the Vegas Take. I'm Chris Wynn, in for Brian Shapiro with J.D. Sharp. Thanks to Gavin Maloof. Thanks to Lisa Song-Sutton. Thanks to Destiny Herndon De La Rosa. Much more coming up tomorrow. We'll talk about the Democrat debate here in Las Vegas and more. Sean Hannity on the way next.